This is the John Brown Alliance, where we don't fear, we fight. Last week, I watched Don Lemon live in the streets of Chicago, Illinois. And he interviewed this Latino woman whose father came to the United States illegally. Sit there and justify how ICE was treating Latinos in the streets. She stated, and I paraphrased, "You must come here illegally and abide by the laws." They debated back and forth, but I got to the point where I couldn't even watch it anymore. I wrote down some notes today because I am just disgruntled with the state of people who are not white in America. Latinos advocating for ICE treatment of other Latinos under fascism is the same as black enslaved people telling other black enslaved people during slavery not to escape. This is absolutely disgusting. And this woman's failure to understand history is disgusting. And I bring you another example. We have a law in the United States of America that is not being adhered to right now. And this message goes out to Congress, goes out to the American military, the Department of Justice, who is supposed to uphold this law and argue it in court, and the Supreme Court, that this particular statement is made before any individual is put into a car and taken off to jail. This is not being done anywhere in America right now that I know of. This, I can't see very well. I have an autoimmune condition. Is the history of Miranda rights. Miranda rights originated from the 1966 U.S. Supreme Court case, Miranda versus Arizona, which established that criminal suspects must be informed of their constitutional rights before police interrogation. The ruling was based on the case of Ernesto Miranda, who confessed to a crime after being interrogated without being told of his right to remain silent and his right to an attorney. None of these rights right now are being afforded to Americans who are arrested by any law enforcement agency. ICE or the United States military supporting ICE. This is the John Brown Alliance, where we don't fear, we fight. If you like this video, please subscribe, because there is a lot of education coming to you. I have built this up over some time. Now, right now, we need to talk about the government shutdown. Before the first American revolution, that afforded us the rights that we have. Oh, damn. We had no Supreme Court. We had no federal judges of note. We just had a ragtag conglomeration of individuals who wanted liberty. we colonized native lands and enslaved black people during the American Revolution, when people like Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine were around. The only safeguard we had then was people willing to fight for liberty. They didn't have government jobs. They didn't have a real court system as we see it today. They didn't have Medicaid or Medicare. They didn't have billionaires paying for them to fight against the king. All they had was their quest for liberty, their need to be free, and their hands and their guns and their conviction. They did not rely on government-funded programs. So a government shutdown to them meant basically that Great Britain had cut them off from making any money, just like they are doing you right now under the Trump administration. These people who fought for our liberty from 1776 to 1781 had no money. They were poor farmers. They hunted for food. They didn't have cars and internet and YouTube. They didn't have modern conveniences. On the brink of starving due to tariffs from Great Britain, and a king that was just willing to suck the life out of everyone who had come to the United States of America for a better life and a new start. Those people had had enough. They had paid their taxes to Great Britain. They had suffered and starved to pay their taxes. And then Great Britain put their British soldiers on this land to regulate these people into abject poverty and annihilation, so that they could come here on their gravy train on land obtained on the backs of their enslaved white people and take this place over. But you know what? That story never happened. And the reason it didn't was because a certain number of people in the United States of America decided that their rule of law and their way of living was best for free people. They didn't fund a corrupt court. They didn't bring pedophiles over here and give them millions of dollars to keep quiet. There was no J.P. Morgan Chase secret account by Epstein so that they could launder women back and forth to countries all over the world. There was none of that. It was just a bunch of poor, starving, pissed off people. And that's what won your liberty, so that you could piss it away. On October 18th, the No Kings March will take place. I need members of Congress and elected officials to listen to me again. When millions of dollars allocated by Congress to the states remain unaccounted for, why should the American people trust Donald Trump and Republicans not to steal outright any money allocated to states during an extension or a new bill? The funds that were taken away during DOGE before any continuing resolution or any stoppage of the government shutdown must be released back to the states immediately. This is what triggered sick-outs, and it will continue to trigger sick-outs, especially among the aviation administration. Press in the White House and around this so-called president, who I think stole the last election, is only represented by fascist-leaning pro-Trump outlets during press conferences and on Air Force One. This administration's claims of transparency are an absolute joke, and ICE propaganda on social media suggests the opposite. There is no proof of intent for this administration to earn their tax-funded pay and act in the interest of the American people. No matter how many times we are told that Donald Trump will invoke the Insurrection Act, our position on this will not change. American people, DOGE and the corrupt scams of Donald Trump's criminal enterprise, is more than enough money to fund the violent overthrow of this government. Under no circumstances should Congress, Democratic Party, or otherwise consent to extorting the meager resources of average Americans to fund a global grift, disappear homeless brown and black people, produce and dismantle ICE porn glorifying violence, let me say this over again. Under no circumstances should Congress, Democratic Party or otherwise, consent to extorting the meager resources of the average American to fund a global grift, disappear homeless brown and black people, produce and distribute ICE porn glorifying violence against our citizens, and sicken and starve our communities into certain death. I have been shown otherwise for the past 9 years. But I refuse to believe the American people are stupid enough to finance their own extermination. You may be fooled into settling for crumbs, like Medicaid expansion in exchange for nothing at all, but I am not. The quicker Trump and his death squad is removed from power by the Supreme Court, Congress, or the International Court the sooner this suffering can end. Until then, we will fight to defend every corrupt aspect of this lawless, anti-constitutional, and treasonous administration. Trump is not winning. Trump is not winning. He is absolutely losing. Now, once again, I'm going to state that it is imperative that you, as American citizens, be absolutely willing to take the same risks and preserve this democracy by the same sacrifice of your forefathers. A blatant national strike sitting on your ass is not a sacrifice. You need to give all to get all. Just like the American military that you used to fight for. And some of whom are now fighting for Donald Trump. Give all to get all. Now I'm going to close this little ditty with a quote from Thomas Paine, which I might alter a little bit. He was the original writer of a pamphlet called Common Sense. Gotta put it up to my face, I can't see. And I want you to listen to this, because this is what democracy looks like. This is where you get your power. You will never defeat fascism by placating, sitting at home, doing podcasts only, running off at the mouth, or any of that. You have an absolute job to do for your children instead of clickbait. For your country instead of keeping your job. Long before you starve from this revolution, you will starve them. And TSA workers and people in the aviation industry already have started doing that. But you're not going to see that on CNN and MSNBC and on the NASDAQ. Another thing you're not going to see is the thousands of tow truck drivers who will be in and around the No Kings protest. Solely focused on government trucks and vehicles who detain American citizens unlawfully. Back to Thomas Paine. The American crisis. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too highly, like Donald Trump and his minions and Clarence Thomas. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods. And it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article of freedom should not be highly rated? Fascism, with an army to enforce his tyranny, has declared that he has a right not only to tax, but to bind us in all cases whatsoever. And if being bound in this manner is not slavery, then is there not such a thing as slavery upon earth? Even the expression of impious for so unlimited a power can belong only to God. This is the John Brown Alliance. When you see something wrong, do something right.